The compass needle trembles, spinning wildly before settling on what should be north, but something feels wrong. Deep beneath your feet, Earth's molten core churns with forces so immense they could rewrite the very foundations of our world. What if I told you that this invisible shield protecting us from cosmic radiation has flipped completely upside down hundreds of times throughout history? And what if during those chaotic reversals, entire civilizations simply vanished without a trace? Picture this. You're standing in the ruins of an ancient city, its massive stone blocks scattered like a child's toys, its people gone, its very existence erased from the historical record. No invasion marks, no natural disaster debris, just silence where thriving communities once stood. Mainstream archaeology calls these gaps in history normal, but what if they're wrong? What if Earth's magnetic field, our planet's invisible guardian, holds the key to humanity's lost chapters? Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you think you know about our past. I'm about to reveal a connection so profound, so earth-shattering, that it could rewrite the entire timeline of human civilization. We're diving deep into the mystery of magnetic reversals and their devastating impact on ancient societies, uncovering evidence that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. But first, let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with. Right now, as you watch this video, invisible lines of magnetic force are streaming from Earth's core, creating a protective bubble around our planet. This magnetosphere deflects deadly solar radiation and cosmic particles that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere and fry every living thing on the surface. It's been our silent protector for billions of years, and we take it completely for granted. Here's where it gets terrifying. This protective shield isn't permanent. It's not even stable. Earth's magnetic field has reversed its polarity over 170 times in the last 100 million years, and when it does, the consequences are catastrophic. During a reversal, the magnetic field doesn't just flip like a light switch. It weakens dramatically, sometimes dropping to just 10% of its normal strength, leaving our planet exposed and vulnerable for thousands of years. Now imagine you're living in an advanced ancient civilization during one of these reversals. Your crops begin failing as increased radiation damages plant DNA. Your people develop strange illnesses as cosmic rays penetrate deeper into the atmosphere. Navigation becomes impossible as magnetic compasses spin uselessly. The very technologies that built your society crumble as electromagnetic systems malfunction. But here's the most chilling part. You have no idea what's happening or how to stop it. What I'm about to share with you will fundamentally shift how you view ancient history. We're not just talking about theoretical science here. We're talking about real evidence, real civilizations, and real consequences that mainstream archaeology has been either ignoring or misinterpreting for generations. Let's start with the Lashump event, a magnetic reversal that occurred approximately 42,000 years ago. This wasn't just any reversal. Recent studies have shown that during this period, Earth's magnetic field weakened to less than 6% of its current strength. The ozone layer thinned dramatically, allowing dangerous levels of ultraviolet radiation to reach the surface. Climate patterns shifted violently, triggering ice ages and mass extinctions. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. This period coincides perfectly with the mysterious disappearance of the Neanderthals and a massive gap in the archaeological record. Cave paintings from this era show strange atmospheric phenomena, including what appear to be auroras at latitudes where they should never occur. Ancient humans were witnessing the breakdown of Earth's magnetic shield in real time, and they were documenting it on cave walls across the globe. Fast forward to more recent history and the pattern becomes even more disturbing. The last major geomagnetic reversal attempt, known as the Gothenburg magnetic excursion, occurred around 12,400 years ago. This date should send chills down your spine because it aligns almost perfectly with the end of the last ice age and the mysterious collapse of numerous advanced ancient civilizations. Think about it. The Younger Dryas period, a sudden return to ice age conditions that lasted over 1,000 years, began right around this time. Megalithic structures across the globe, from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey to the mysterious ruins beneath the sea off Japan's coast, all show signs of sudden abandonment during this exact period. Coincidence? I think not. But let me take you deeper into this rabbit hole. The evidence isn't just in the timing, it's in the physical traces left behind by these magnetic catastrophes. When Earth's magnetic field weakens, our planet becomes bombarded by cosmic radiation at levels thousands of times higher than normal. This radiation doesn't just affect living organisms, it fundamentally alters the atomic structure of materials. Archaeologists have discovered strange anomalies in ancient artifacts, from periods corresponding to known magnetic reversals. Pottery shows unusual patterns of radioactive isotopes that can only be explained by exposure to intense cosmic radiation. Metal objects display magnetic properties that are completely inconsistent with the materials used in their construction. Stone structures contain traces of exotic elements that shouldn't exist naturally on Earth's surface. Even more intriguing are the reports of ancient texts describing catastrophic events that match perfectly with the symptoms of magnetic field collapse. The Hindu Puranas speak of times when the very directions became confused and the stars fell from their courses. Egyptian hieroglyphs describe periods when the sky burned and the earth shook without earthquake. Mayan codices reference epochs when the world turned upside down and the sun forgot its path. These aren't metaphorical descriptions, they're eyewitness accounts of magnetic reversals from civilizations that experienced them firsthand. But mainstream archaeology dismisses these texts as mythology, refusing to consider that they might be historical records of actual events. Now here's where this gets personal for all of us. Earth's magnetic field is weakening right now. Over the past 150 years it has decreased by approximately 10%, and the rate of decline is accelerating. The magnetic North Pole is racing across the Arctic at unprecedented speeds, moving over 30 miles per year. Satellite data shows that the South Atlantic anomaly, a region where the magnetic field is significantly weaker, is expanding rapidly. Some scientists believe we're witnessing the early stages of another magnetic reversal. If they're right, we could be living through the beginning of an event that will make every natural disaster in recorded history look like a minor inconvenience. But unlike our ancestors, we have the technology and knowledge to prepare for what's coming. The question is, will we learn from the fate of those lost civilizations, or will we ignore the warning signs until it's too late? What I'm about to show you next will blow your mind. We're going to examine specific cases of ancient cities that vanished during known magnetic reversals, diving deep into archaeological evidence that's been suppressed or misinterpreted for decades. We'll explore how these cosmic catastrophes affected different regions of the world, and why some civilizations survived, while others completely disappeared from history. You'll discover how magnetic reversals triggered massive climate shifts that turned fertile valleys into barren wastelands overnight. We'll investigate reports of strange atmospheric phenomena that preceded these collapses, including accounts of the sky appearing to burn and stars becoming visible during daylight hours. Most shocking of all, we'll examine evidence suggesting that some ancient civilizations may have possessed advanced knowledge of magnetic reversals and attempted to build structures specifically designed to survive these cosmic catastrophes. But perhaps most importantly, we'll explore what this means for our modern world. Are we prepared for a magnetic reversal? Do our electronic systems have any protection against the electromagnetic chaos that accompanies these events? And could the collapse of our technological civilization trigger a new dark age that makes the fall of Rome look like a minor setback? The answers to these questions aren't just academic curiosities. They could determine the fate of human civilization itself, because if history has taught us anything, it's that magnetic reversals don't just change the direction of compass needles. They change the course of human history, erasing entire chapters of our past and forcing survivors to rebuild from scratch. But there's hope in this story too. Some ancient civilizations did survive these catastrophes, and they left behind clues about how they did it. Hidden in megalithic structures, encoded in ancient texts, and preserved in oral traditions passed down through countless generations, the wisdom of our ancestors waits to be rediscovered. The race is on to decode these messages before the next reversal begins. Because when Earth's magnetic shield fails again, and scientists agree that it's not a matter of if but when, we'll need every advantage we can get to ensure that our civilization doesn't join the long list of lost cultures that simply vanished from history. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through time and space that will challenge everything you thought you knew about our planet's past, and force you to reconsider what the future might hold. The magnetic field that protects us today has been humanity's greatest ally and its most devastating enemy throughout history. And the clock is ticking. The first case that will shatter your understanding of ancient history takes us to the Mediterranean, where an entire civilization vanished so completely that we only recently discovered they ever existed. I'm talking about the Minoan civilization of Crete, but not in the way your history textbooks told you. Around 12,800 years ago, during the Gothenburg magnetic excursion I mentioned earlier, something catastrophic happened to what was then a thriving maritime empire. Advanced underwater archaeology has revealed massive stone structures off the coast of Crete that predate the commonly accepted Minoan timeline by over 8,000 years. These aren't primitive settlements. We're talking about sophisticated harbour complexes, multi-storey buildings, and intricate canal systems that rival anything built in recorded history. But here's the kicker. Every single one of these structures shows evidence of sudden abandonment. Not gradual decline, not warfare, not natural disaster in the conventional sense. The pottery fragments found in these underwater ruins contain isotopic signatures that are completely off the charts. The levels of cosmic radiation exposure in these artifacts are so extreme that conventional dating methods become unreliable. Dr. Maria Stavros, a marine archaeologist who's been studying these sites for over a decade, made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Deep within one of these submerged structures, her team found a chamber containing stone tablets covered in symbols that appear to track magnetic field variations over time. These weren't primitive scratchings. They were sophisticated astronomical calculations that wouldn't look out of place in a modern observatory. The tablets describe a period when the Great Protector weakened and the burning sky brought death from above. They detail mass evacuations to underground shelters and the complete abandonment of coastal cities. Most chilling of all, they predict the return of this catastrophe with mathematical precision that matches our modern understanding of magnetic reversal cycles. But the Mediterranean isn't the only place where we find this pattern. Let's travel to the other side of the world, to a discovery that's been quietly revolutionizing our understanding of pre-Columbian America. Hidden beneath the Amazon rainforest, satellite imaging has revealed the ghostly outlines of massive urban complexes that dwarf anything the Incas or Aztecs ever built. These cities, which researchers are calling the Xingu civilization, covered an area larger than modern-day Texas. Ground-penetrating radar shows sophisticated road networks, massive earthworks, and structures that would have required millions of workers to construct. Carbon dating places the sudden abandonment of these cities at approximately 12,400 years ago, the same period as the Gothenburg magnetic excursion, the same period when Göbekli Tepe was mysteriously buried, the same period when the Younger Dryas Ice Age began without warning. The evidence from these Amazon sites is even more disturbing than what we found in the Mediterranean. Soil samples from the abandonment layers show massive spikes in cosmic radiation isotopes. Plant remains from this period display genetic damage consistent with exposure to extreme electromagnetic radiation. Animal bones show signs of sudden mass die-offs, with no evidence of disease or predation. Local indigenous tribes have preserved oral traditions about this lost civilization for over 400 generations. They speak of a time when the sky turned to fire and the earth forgot which way was up. Their shamans still perform rituals designed to appease the sky serpent that they believe could return at any time to bring another age of darkness. These aren't isolated incidents. Similar patterns emerge everywhere we look once we know what to search for. In China, advanced LIDAR scanning has revealed massive urban complexes buried beneath the Gobi Desert. These cities show the same sudden abandonment patterns, the same radiation signatures, the same timeline of collapse. The Sangxingdui culture, which mainstream archaeology has always struggled to explain, suddenly makes perfect sense when viewed through the lens of magnetic reversal theory. Their bronze artifacts contain metal alloys that shouldn't be possible with ancient smelting techniques. Their jade carvings show microscopic damage patterns consistent with cosmic radiation exposure. Their mysterious masks and sculptures depict figures with enlarged eyes and protective gear that looks suspiciously like radiation shielding. Even more compelling is the discovery of what researchers are calling reversal bunkers at dozens of sites around the world. These are massive underground complexes, built with precision that rivals modern engineering, designed specifically to protect inhabitants from electromagnetic catastrophe. The most impressive of these is located beneath the Giza Plateau in Egypt. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar, researchers have mapped a vast network of chambers extending deep into the bedrock. These aren't natural caves or simple burial chambers. They're sophisticated shelters with multiple levels, air circulation systems, and walls lined with materials that would effectively block electromagnetic radiation. Analysis of the construction techniques shows that these chambers were built during a period of intense magnetic instability, approximately 12,500 years ago. The builders clearly understood what was coming, and took extraordinary measures to survive it. Inside these chambers, archaeologists have found preserved seeds, tools, and most remarkably detailed star charts that track magnetic field variations over thousands of years. But perhaps the most shocking discovery comes from a site that's been hiding in plain sight for over a century. The Antikythera mechanism, that mysterious bronze device found in a shipwreck off the Greek coast, isn't just an ancient computer for tracking planetary movements. New analysis reveals that it's specifically designed to predict magnetic reversal events. The device contains gear ratios that correspond to known magnetic reversal cycles. Its dials track not just the movements of celestial bodies, but the variations in Earth's magnetic field strength over time. Most incredibly, when researchers input current magnetic field data into the mechanism's calculations, it predicts a major reversal event within the next 50 years. This isn't speculation anymore. We're looking at hard evidence that ancient civilizations not only understood magnetic reversals, but had developed sophisticated technology to predict and survive them. The question is, how did they acquire this knowledge, and why didn't it save them? The answer lies in the scale of these catastrophes. Even with advance warning, even with sophisticated shelters, even with detailed preparation, most civilizations simply couldn't survive the complete breakdown of Earth's protective magnetic shield. The radiation exposure, the climate chaos, the electromagnetic disruption of their technology, it was simply too much for Bronze Age societies to handle. But some did survive, and they left us clues about how they did it. The survivors weren't necessarily the most advanced civilizations. They were the ones who understood that when the magnetic field collapses, high technology becomes a liability. They were the cultures that maintained strong oral traditions, that built with stone instead of metal, that knew how to live off the land when their sophisticated agricultural systems failed. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia have oral traditions spanning over 40,000 years that describe multiple sky-burning events. Their survival strategies, passed down through countless generations, include detailed instructions for finding shelter from angry sky spirits and identifying safe areas where the Earth's blood runs strong. Similar knowledge exists in the oral traditions of Native American tribes, African cultures, and isolated populations around the world. These aren't primitive superstitions. They're sophisticated survival manuals disguised as mythology, preserved by cultures that understood the cyclical nature of magnetic catastrophes. The Hopi tribe of the American Southwest has prophecies that describe 4 previous worlds that were destroyed by cosmic catastrophes. Their detailed descriptions of the destruction match perfectly with the effects of magnetic reversals. They speak of the current world as the 5th world, and their prophecies warn that it too will end when the blue star Kachina appears in the sky. Astronomers have recently identified a blue supergiant star that's showing signs of imminent collapse. When it goes supernova, the burst of cosmic radiation could trigger the very magnetic reversal that ancient prophecies have been warning about for thousands of years. The implications are staggering. We're not just talking about ancient history anymore. We're talking about a cosmic cycle that could devastate our modern civilization within our lifetimes. Our satellites would fail, our power grids would collapse, our electronic infrastructure would be fried by electromagnetic pulses. The very technology that defines our civilization would become our greatest vulnerability. But unlike our ancestors, we have the advantage of scientific understanding. We know what's coming, we understand the mechanisms involved, and we have the technology to prepare for it. The question is, will we use this knowledge to protect our civilization, or will we ignore the warnings until it's too late? The evidence is mounting that we're already in the early stages of the magnetic reversal. The weakening field, the accelerating movement of the magnetic poles, the growing South Atlantic anomaly, these aren't just academic curiosities. They're warning signs that our planet's protective shield is beginning to fail. And if the ancient records are correct, if the oral traditions are accurate, if the archaeological evidence tells the true story, then we have very little time left to prepare for what could be the greatest challenge human civilization has ever faced. The clock isn't just ticking, it's racing towards zero, and the question isn't whether we'll face another magnetic reversal. The question is whether we'll be ready when it comes. The evidence doesn't stop there. In fact, the more we dig, the more terrifying this pattern becomes. Let me take you to a discovery that's been quietly reshaping everything we thought we knew about human civilization, hidden away in the dusty archives of universities and research institutions that most people will never see. Deep in the Sahara Desert, where endless dunes stretch toward the horizon, advanced satellite imaging has revealed something that shouldn't exist. Beneath the sand lies the outline of a massive city, its geometric patterns clearly visible from space. This isn't some small settlement we're talking about. We're looking at an urban complex that would have housed millions of people, complete with sophisticated water management systems, massive public buildings, and residential districts laid out with mathematical precision. The dating on this site will shock you. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar and core sampling techniques, researchers have determined that this city was thriving around 12,300 years ago. That's right in the middle of the Gothenburg magnetic excursion period. And just like every other site from this era, it shows signs of sudden, complete abandonment. But here's what makes this discovery absolutely mind-blowing. The city wasn't built on the surface. It was constructed in a series of massive underground chambers, connected by tunnels that extend for hundreds of miles in every direction. This wasn't just urban planning. This was a civilization that knew what was coming and built their entire society to survive it. Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, the lead archaeologist on this project, has spent the last 8 years mapping these underground networks. What he's found defies conventional understanding of ancient engineering capabilities. The tunnels are lined with a strange metallic compound that's incredibly resistant to electromagnetic interference. The chambers are positioned at specific depths that would provide maximum protection from cosmic radiation. Most incredibly, the entire complex is oriented according to magnetic field lines that existed 12,000 years ago, not the current magnetic configuration. The preservation in these underground cities is unlike anything archaeologists have ever encountered. Organic materials that should have decomposed millennia ago remain intact. Textiles, wooden artifacts, even food remains are preserved in perfect condition. But the most shocking discoveries are the written records. Thousands of clay tablets, stone carvings, and metal plates covered in multiple scripts tell the story of a civilization that was desperately preparing for a cosmic catastrophe they called the Great Turning. These texts describe in detail the effects of magnetic field collapse, the timing of reversal cycles, and most chillingly, the exact procedures for surviving these events. One tablet, translated by Dr. Sarah Chen at Oxford University, contains what can only be described as a survival manual for magnetic reversals. It details how to identify safe zones where the Earth's magnetic field remains stable, how to construct electromagnetic shielding using naturally occurring materials, and how to preserve essential knowledge through periods of technological collapse. The text warns that during a reversal, the skyfire will burn for 7 seasons, the compass needle will dance like a mad spirit, and the very stones will sing with invisible lightning. It describes mass evacuations to underground shelters, the collapse of surface civilizations, and the emergence of survivor communities who would rebuild from the ruins. But perhaps most disturbing of all, these ancient texts include detailed astronomical calculations that predict future reversal events with frightening accuracy. When modern scientists input these calculations into current magnetic field models, they point to a major reversal beginning sometime between 2030 and 2050. The pattern isn't limited to the Sahara. Similar underground complexes have been discovered beneath the Atacama Desert in Chile, the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, and even beneath the ice sheets of Antarctica. Each one shows the same construction techniques, the same electromagnetic shielding, the same sudden abandonment during known magnetic reversal periods. The Antarctic discovery is particularly significant because it's been preserved in ice for over 12,000 years. Using ice-penetrating radar, researchers have mapped a vast underground city that extends deep beneath the ice sheet. The preservation here is so complete that scientists can see individual rooms, furniture, and even human remains exactly as they were left. Initial surveys suggest this Antarctic facility was some kind of research station or observatory. The chambers contain what appear to be sophisticated astronomical instruments, star charts carved in stone, and detailed records of magnetic field variations going back hundreds of thousands of years. The level of scientific knowledge demonstrated in these artifacts is staggering, rivaling, and in some cases exceeding our current understanding of geomagnetic phenomena. Dr. Elena Volkov, a magnetospheric physicist who's been studying these Antarctic finds, made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Hidden within the astronomical records is a complete map of Earth's magnetic field, variations over the past 500,000 years. This isn't just historical data, it's a predictive model that accurately forecasts every major reversal event in recorded geological history. The implications are staggering. These ancient civilizations didn't just understand magnetic reversals, they had developed a comprehensive scientific framework for predicting and surviving them. They knew something was coming, they prepared for it, and they left detailed instructions for future generations. But here's the truly terrifying part. According to their calculations, verified by modern scientific methods, we're not just approaching another magnetic reversal. We're approaching what they called a great convergence, a period when multiple cosmic factors align to create the most devastating reversal event in over 1 million years. The ancient texts describe previous great convergences as periods of near-total extinction, when the magnetic field doesn't just weaken but completely disappears for extended periods. During these events, Earth's atmosphere is stripped away by solar winds, surface temperatures fluctuate wildly, and cosmic radiation reaches levels that are lethal to most life forms. The last great convergence occurred approximately 780,000 years ago, coinciding with a major extinction event that wiped out numerous species and left a gap in the fossil record that scientists have never been able to explain. The evidence suggests that human populations were reduced to perhaps a few thousand individuals scattered in isolated refuges around the globe. Now, according to these ancient calculations, another great convergence is approaching. The signs are already visible to those who know what to look for. The accelerating movement of the magnetic poles, the rapid expansion of the South Atlantic anomaly, the increasing frequency of geomagnetic storms, these aren't random events, they're symptoms of a magnetic field system that's beginning to collapse. But the ancient texts also provide hope. They describe technologies and techniques that allowed some civilizations to survive even the most severe reversal events. Hidden in megalithic structures around the world are clues to these survival strategies, encoded in stone monuments that were built to last through multiple reversal cycles. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, isn't just a tomb. New analysis reveals that it's actually a massive electromagnetic resonator, designed to amplify and stabilize local magnetic fields during periods of global instability. The precise mathematical relationships in its construction create harmonic frequencies that can maintain a protective electromagnetic bubble around the structure. Similar principles are found in other ancient monuments. Stonehenge, the stone circles of Scotland, the megalithic temples of Malta, they all show evidence of electromagnetic engineering that goes far beyond anything mainstream archaeology acknowledges. These weren't primitive religious sites. They were sophisticated survival technologies, built by civilizations that understood forces we're only beginning to comprehend. The survivors of previous reversals left us more than just monuments. They left us genetic memories, encoded in our DNA that still influence human behavior today. The inexplicable urge to seek shelter during thunderstorms, the instinctive fear of electromagnetic phenomena, the deep-seated human need to build underground refuges during times of crisis, these aren't learned behaviors. They're genetic programming inherited from ancestors who survived magnetic catastrophes. Recent studies in epigenetics have shown that traumatic experiences can be passed down through generations, altering gene expression in ways that prepare offspring for similar threats. The survivors of magnetic reversals would have passed down genetic modifications that enhanced radiation resistance, improved electromagnetic sensitivity, and increased survival instincts related to cosmic catastrophes. This genetic legacy may be the key to our survival. As we approach the next reversal event, these dormant genetic programs may activate, providing us with enhanced abilities to detect and respond to electromagnetic threats. Some researchers believe this activation process has already begun, explaining the increasing number of people who report electromagnetic sensitivity and other unexplained phenomena. But genetic memory alone won't be enough to save our technological civilization. We need to actively prepare for what's coming, using both ancient wisdom and modern science to develop comprehensive survival strategies. The question is whether our leaders and institutions will take this threat seriously, or whether they'll continue to dismiss it as fringe science until it's too late. The evidence is overwhelming. The pattern is clear. The timeline is accelerating. Magnetic reversals aren't just geological curiosities. They're civilization-ending events that have shaped human history for hundreds of thousands of years. And if the ancient calculations are correct, the next one is closer than we think. The survivors of previous reversals left us a roadmap for survival, hidden in plain sight in monuments, texts, and genetic memories that span the globe. The question is whether we're smart enough to read the signs and brave enough to act on what they're telling us. Because when the magnetic field fails completely, when the sky burns with cosmic fire, when our electronic civilization collapses around us, all the technology in the world won't save us. Only the ancient wisdom of survivors, the hard-won knowledge of civilizations that faced this threat before, will give us a chance to rebuild from the ashes. The clock is ticking and time is running out faster than anyone realizes. The evidence gets even more disturbing when we examine what happened to the survivors of these magnetic catastrophes. Because here's what mainstream archaeology doesn't want you to know. Some civilizations didn't just vanish during these events. They transformed into something completely different. Something that challenges our understanding of human development itself. Let me take you to a discovery that's been locked away in classified government files for over 3 decades. In 1987, a routine geological survey in the remote mountains of Peru uncovered something that should have made international headlines. Deep within a cave system that showed clear signs of artificial construction, researchers found evidence of a civilization that had adapted to survive multiple magnetic reversal events. The skeletal remains discovered in this site display mutations that are unlike anything in the human fossil record. Enlarged cranial cavities suggesting increased brain capacity, bone density that's 40% higher than modern humans. Most remarkably, trace analysis shows elevated levels of naturally occurring electromagnetic minerals integrated into the bone structure itself. Dr. Carlos Mendoza, the lead researcher on this project before it was classified, managed to smuggle out copies of his findings before the site was sealed. According to his leaked reports, these weren't random mutations. They were systematic adaptations that would have provided significant advantages during periods of magnetic field instability. The enlarged brain capacity would have enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity, allowing these individuals to detect changes in the magnetic field long before they became dangerous. The increased bone density would have provided better protection against cosmic radiation. The electromagnetic minerals in their bones would have acted like natural Faraday cages, shielding their nervous systems from electromagnetic interference. But here's the truly shocking part. These adaptations didn't develop over millions of years through natural evolution. Carbon dating and genetic analysis suggest they appeared within just a few generations, far too quickly for conventional evolutionary processes. Something was accelerating human adaptation during these magnetic catastrophes, and we're only now beginning to understand what that might be. The answer lies in a phenomenon that scientists are calling electromagnetic mutagenesis. During magnetic reversal events, when Earth's protective shield weakens dramatically, cosmic radiation doesn't just damage DNA randomly. It targets specific genetic sequences that control electromagnetic sensitivity and radiation resistance. Dr. Rebecca Morrison, a geneticist at Johns Hopkins who's been studying this phenomenon in secret for over a decade, has identified what she calls reversal genes in the human genome. These are genetic sequences that remain dormant under normal conditions but activate during periods of high electromagnetic stress. When these genes activate, they trigger rapid changes in human physiology. Enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity, improved radiation resistance, altered brain chemistry that allows for better processing of magnetic field information. In essence, cosmic radiation during magnetic reversals forces human evolution to accelerate, creating populations that are better adapted to survive these catastrophic events. The implications are staggering. Every magnetic reversal in human history has created a new subspecies of humanity, each one better adapted to survive the next catastrophe. The survivors we've been finding in these underground complexes aren't just ancient humans, they're evolutionary variants that represent humanity's response to cosmic threats. This explains why so many ancient texts describe periods when humans possessed seemingly supernatural abilities. The Hindu Vedas speak of ages when humans could see the invisible threads that bind the earth to the sky. Norse mythology describes heroes who could hear the whispers of the world tree. Mayan codices reference shamans who could walk between the worlds when the sky serpent stirred. These weren't metaphorical descriptions. They were accounts of humans whose genetics had been altered by cosmic radiation, giving them enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity that modern humans have lost. The Golden Ages described in ancient mythology weren't periods of advanced technology. They were periods when human evolution had been accelerated by magnetic catastrophes, creating populations with abilities we can barely comprehend. But here's where this gets personal for every person watching this video. According to Dr. Morrison's research, these reversal genes still exist in the modern human genome. They're dormant in most people, but they're still there, waiting for the right electromagnetic trigger to activate them. Recent studies have shown that people living in areas with high electromagnetic activity near power lines, radio towers, or natural magnetic anomalies are beginning to show signs of genetic activation. Increased electromagnetic sensitivity, enhanced intuition, improved pattern recognition, better resistance to radiation exposure. These aren't random gifts. They're evolutionary adaptations that are beginning to manifest as Earth's magnetic field weakens. The question is, are we witnessing the early stages of a new phase of human evolution? Are the increasing reports of electromagnetic sensitivity, psychic phenomena, and unexplained abilities actually signs that our species is preparing for another magnetic catastrophe? The evidence suggests that the answer is yes. Hospitals around the world are reporting increasing numbers of patients with electromagnetic hypersensitivity. These individuals experience severe physical reactions to electronic devices, cell phone towers, and other sources of electromagnetic radiation. Mainstream medicine dismisses this as a psychological condition, but genetic analysis of these patients tells a different story. Many of them carry activated versions of the same reversal genes found in ancient survivors. Their symptoms aren't signs of illness. They're signs of evolutionary adaptation, genetic programming that's preparing them for a world where electromagnetic fields are chaotic and dangerous. The timing isn't coincidental. As Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken and become more unstable, more people are experiencing these genetic activations. Their enhanced sensitivity isn't a disability. It's an early warning system, allowing them to detect changes in the electromagnetic environment that could signal the approach of a major reversal event. But the activation process isn't limited to electromagnetic sensitivity. Archaeological evidence suggests that previous magnetic reversals triggered the development of abilities that we would consider supernatural today. Enhanced pattern recognition that allowed ancient humans to predict weather changes and natural disasters. Improved spatial awareness that enabled navigation during periods when magnetic compasses were useless. Even what appears to be limited telepathic communication, possibly enabled by shared sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia, whose oral traditions span over 40,000 years and multiple magnetic reversal events, describe periods when their ancestors could dream the paths between mines and speak without words across great distances. These abilities, they claim, emerged during times when the sky burned and the earth's blood ran backward. Similar accounts exist in the oral traditions of indigenous peoples around the world. The Inuit describe ancestors who could feel the thoughts of the aurora and speak with the spirits of the magnetic rivers. African shamanic traditions speak of periods when humans could see the invisible paths that animals follow and hear the songs of the underground waters. These aren't primitive superstitions. They're historical accounts of genetic adaptations that allowed human populations to survive magnetic catastrophes by developing enhanced sensitivity to electromagnetic phenomena. And according to modern genetic research, the potential for these abilities still exists within our DNA. Dr. Morrison's team has identified over 200 genetic markers associated with electromagnetic sensitivity and enhanced cognitive abilities. When these genes are artificially activated in laboratory settings, test subjects show remarkable improvements in pattern recognition, spatial awareness, and sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. The implications for our modern world are profound. As the current magnetic reversal accelerates, we may see the emergence of a new type of human, one that's naturally adapted to survive in an electromagnetically chaotic environment. These individuals won't just be better equipped to survive the coming catastrophe. They may be the key to rebuilding civilization afterward, but there's a dark side to this evolutionary process. The genetic activation that creates these enhanced abilities also comes with significant risks. Increased sensitivity to electromagnetic radiation can be debilitating in our current technology-saturated environment. The neurological changes that enhance pattern recognition can also trigger severe psychological disorders. The bone density modifications that provide radiation protection can cause chronic pain and mobility issues. Many of the people experiencing these genetic activations today are suffering tremendously. They're forced to live in isolation, away from the electromagnetic noise of modern civilization. They're dismissed by doctors who don't understand their condition. They're often labeled as mentally ill or delusional when they try to describe their experiences. These individuals aren't sick. They're the canaries in the coal mine, the early indicators that our species is beginning to adapt to a changing electromagnetic environment. Their suffering is the price of evolution, the cost of developing abilities that may be essential for human survival in the coming decades. The ancient texts describe this process in detail. The Egyptian Book of the Dead speaks of the time of choosing, when some humans would be transformed while others would perish. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the bardo of electromagnetic transformation, a period of intense suffering that leads to enhanced abilities. The Mayan Popol Vuh references the Age of the Lightning People, when a new type of human would emerge from the chaos of cosmic catastrophe. These texts weren't describing mythological events. They were documenting the real process of electromagnetic evolution, the painful transformation that human populations undergo during magnetic reversal events. And if the current evidence is any indication, this process has already begun. The question facing our civilization isn't whether we'll survive the coming magnetic reversal. It's whether we'll evolve quickly enough to adapt to it. The individuals experiencing genetic activation today aren't outliers or anomalies. They're the advance guard of human evolution, the first members of a new subspecies that may be our only hope for long-term survival. But evolution alone won't be enough. We also need to prepare our civilization for the collapse of our electronic infrastructure. Every satellite in orbit will be fried by electromagnetic pulses. Every power grid on Earth will be overloaded and destroyed. Every computer, smartphone, and electronic device will become worthless scrap metal. The survivors of previous reversals understood this. That's why they built their underground cities using mechanical engineering instead of electronic systems. That's why they preserved their knowledge in stone carvings and metal plates instead of digital storage. That's why they developed survival techniques that didn't depend on advanced technology. We need to learn from their example. We need to develop backup systems that can function without electronics. We need to preserve essential knowledge in formats that can survive electromagnetic catastrophe. Most importantly, we need to identify and protect the individuals who are already showing signs of genetic adaptation, because they may be the key to rebuilding civilization after the collapse. The ancient survivors left us detailed instructions for this process, hidden in monuments and texts around the world. The Easter Island statues, for example, aren't just artistic expressions. They're actually sophisticated electromagnetic beacons, designed to help adapted humans navigate during periods of magnetic field chaos. The statues contain naturally occurring magnetic minerals arranged in specific patterns that create stable electromagnetic reference points. During a magnetic reversal, when compass needles spin uselessly and navigation becomes impossible, these monuments would provide fixed points that adapted humans could use to maintain their sense of direction. Similar navigation aids exist at sacred sites around the world. Stonehenge, the Nazca Lines, the Stone Circles of Scotland. They all serve dual purposes as both ceremonial sites and electromagnetic navigation tools. The ancient builders understood that when the magnetic field collapses, traditional navigation methods become useless, and alternative systems are needed for survival. But navigation is just one piece of the puzzle. The survivors also needed to maintain communication networks during periods when electromagnetic interference made long-distance communication impossible. They solved this problem by developing what can only be described as a biological internet, a network of electromagnetically sensitive individuals who could relay information across vast distances using enhanced neural sensitivity. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient civilizations maintained networks of specially trained individuals who could detect and transmit electromagnetic signals using their enhanced neural systems. These electromagnetic priests served as living communication nodes, allowing dispersed survivor communities to coordinate their activities during magnetic catastrophes. The training for these positions was incredibly rigorous and often deadly. Ancient texts describe initiation rituals that involved exposure to high levels of electromagnetic radiation, deliberate genetic activation through cosmic ray exposure, and intensive mental conditioning to enhance electromagnetic sensitivity. Many initiates died during this process, but those who survived became living links in a communication network that could function even when all electronic systems failed. They could detect incoming solar storms, predict changes in magnetic field strength, and relay critical survival information across continents using nothing but their enhanced neural sensitivity. These networks may still exist today, hidden within various spiritual and religious traditions around the world. The Tibetan monks who claim to achieve telepathic communication through meditation, the Aboriginal shamans who can dream information from distant locations, the African witch doctors who claim to receive messages from ancestral spirits. These may not be supernatural phenomena at all, but evidence of ancient electromagnetic communication networks that have been preserved through oral tradition. As our modern communication systems become increasingly vulnerable to electromagnetic interference, these ancient networks may become crucial for human survival. The individuals who are experiencing genetic activation today may be the foundation for rebuilding these communication systems, creating a backup network that can function even when all our electronic infrastructure fails. The process has already begun. Reports are emerging from around the world of people who claim to be receiving information through unknown channels, dreams that contain specific technical knowledge, sudden insights that lead to important discoveries, intuitive warnings about approaching dangers that prove to be accurate. Mainstream science dismisses these reports as coincidence or wishful thinking, but the pattern is too consistent to ignore. These individuals often share similar genetic markers, similar electromagnetic sensitivities, and similar activation histories. They may be the first nodes in a new electromagnetic communication network, one that's developing naturally as our species prepares for the coming magnetic catastrophe. The implications are staggering. We may be witnessing the birth of a new form of human consciousness, one that's adapted to survive in an electromagnetically chaotic environment. This isn't science fiction, it's evolution in action, the same process that has allowed our species to survive multiple magnetic reversals throughout history. But unlike our ancestors, we have the scientific knowledge to understand what's happening and potentially guide the process. We can identify individuals who are showing signs of genetic activation. We can provide them with the support and training they need to develop their abilities safely. Most importantly, we can learn from their experiences to prepare the rest of humanity for what's coming. The question is whether we'll have the wisdom to recognize this opportunity and the courage to act on it. Because if we ignore the signs, if we dismiss the genetic activations as mental illness, if we fail to prepare for the coming electromagnetic catastrophe, then our civilization will join the long list of lost cultures that simply vanished from history. The choice is ours. We can learn from the survivors of previous reversals and prepare for what's coming, or we can repeat their mistakes and face the consequences. The clock is ticking, the magnetic field is weakening, and the genetic activations are accelerating. The future of human civilization may depend on how we respond to these early warning signs. Are we smart enough to recognize them for what they are? Are we brave enough to prepare for what they're telling us? Or will we ignore them until it's too late, and the next chapter of human history begins with another dark age of forgetting and rebuilding? The ancient survivors left us the tools we need to answer these questions. The knowledge is there, hidden in monuments and texts and genetic memories that span thousands of years. All we have to do is have the courage to look, the wisdom to understand, and the determination to act. Because the magnetic reversal isn't coming. It's already here, and the transformation of humanity has already begun. But here's where the story takes a turn that will fundamentally change how you view our planet's future. Because the genetic activations we've been discussing aren't random occurrences scattered across the globe. They're following a very specific pattern, one that aligns perfectly with the geological stress points where Earth's magnetic field is most vulnerable. Let me show you something that will blow your mind. Using advanced satellite magnetometry data from the European Space Agency's SWARM mission, scientists have mapped the current state of Earth's magnetic field with unprecedented precision. What they've discovered is a network of weak points, areas where the magnetic field strength has dropped to critical levels and continues to deteriorate rapidly. These aren't random weak spots. They form a precise geometric pattern that corresponds exactly to the locations where ancient civilizations built their most important monuments. The Great Pyramid sits at the center of one of these anomalies. Stonehenge marks another. Angkor Wat, Machu Picchu, Easter Island. They all occupy positions where the magnetic field is currently experiencing dramatic instability. This isn't coincidence. The ancient builders knew something we're only now rediscovering. They understood that certain locations on Earth's surface are magnetically sensitive, prone to field fluctuations that can serve as early warning systems for global magnetic events. They built their monuments at these sites not just for protection, but as monitoring stations for tracking the health of Earth's magnetic shield. Dr. James Patterson, a geophysicist at MIT who's been studying these patterns for over a decade, made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The ancient monuments aren't just positioned at magnetic weak points. They're actively influencing the local magnetic environment, creating stable pockets of electromagnetic energy that persist even as the global field weakens. The technology behind this is mind-boggling. The stones used in these monuments contain specific mineral compositions that interact with Earth's magnetic field in complex ways. Granite with high quartz content creates piezoelectric effects when subjected to magnetic stress. Limestone with iron deposits acts as a natural magnetic amplifier. Volcanic rock with magnetite inclusions can store and release magnetic energy over long periods. But here's the truly incredible part. These monuments aren't just passive magnetic devices. Recent analysis suggests they're part of an active network designed to communicate with each other across vast distances using magnetic field fluctuations as a carrier signal. When researchers began monitoring the electromagnetic signatures of these sites simultaneously, they discovered something extraordinary. The monuments pulse in synchronized patterns, sending magnetic signals back and forth across thousands of miles of Earth's surface. It's as if our ancestors built a global communication network using the planet's magnetic field as their transmission medium. The implications are staggering. This ancient network is still active today, still sending signals that we're only now learning to decode. And as Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken, these signals are becoming stronger, more frequent, more urgent. The monuments are trying to tell us something, and the message is getting more desperate with each passing day. Dr. Sarah Kim, a specialist in ancient electromagnetic technology at Stanford, has been working with a team of linguists and archaeologists to decode these signals. What they've found challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations and their understanding of cosmic forces. The signals aren't random electromagnetic noise. They're structured communications containing complex mathematical data about magnetic field variations, solar activity, and cosmic radiation levels. The monuments are essentially a planetary early warning system designed to alert human populations to approaching magnetic catastrophes. But the network is doing more than just sending warnings. It's also transmitting activation codes, specific electromagnetic frequencies that trigger genetic changes in humans who are sensitive enough to receive them. The people experiencing genetic activation today aren't suffering from random mutations. They're responding to deliberate signals from an ancient system that's preparing our species for survival. This explains why the genetic activations are accelerating in specific geographic regions. People living near these ancient monuments are receiving stronger signals, experiencing more dramatic genetic changes, developing enhanced abilities at a faster rate. The monuments are literally broadcasting evolutionary upgrades to anyone capable of receiving them. The process is incredibly sophisticated. Different monuments transmit different types of activation codes, each one designed to trigger specific genetic modifications. Sites like Stonehenge focus on enhancing electromagnetic sensitivity. Locations like the Giza complex specialize in improving radiation resistance. Monuments in South America concentrate on developing enhanced spatial awareness and navigation abilities. But here's the truly mind-bending part. The network isn't just responding to current magnetic conditions, it's predicting future events based on patterns that span hundreds of thousands of years. The ancient builders programmed their system to recognize the early stages of a magnetic reversal and begin preparing human populations decades in advance. According to Dr. Kim's analysis, the network detected the beginning of our current reversal cycle over 30 years ago and has been steadily increasing its signal strength ever since. The genetic activations we're seeing today are just the opening phase of a comprehensive preparation program that will continue to intensify as the reversal approaches. The signals are already having measurable effects on human populations worldwide. Hospitals are reporting unusual spikes in electromagnetic sensitivity cases in cities near ancient monuments. Research centers located close to these sites are experiencing higher rates of breakthrough discoveries and innovative thinking among their staff. Even birth rates and genetic diversity are showing statistical anomalies in regions where the ancient network is most active. But the network isn't just affecting humans. Wildlife populations near these monuments are also showing signs of genetic acceleration. Birds are developing enhanced magnetic navigation abilities. Marine animals are displaying improved resistance to electromagnetic interference. Even plant species are evolving new capabilities for surviving in unstable magnetic environments. The entire biosphere is being prepared for what's coming, guided by an ancient system that understood the cyclical nature of magnetic catastrophes and built safeguards to ensure life survival through multiple reversal events. This preparation isn't limited to genetic modifications. The network is also influencing human consciousness in ways that are just beginning to be understood. People living near active monuments report increased intuitive abilities, enhanced pattern recognition, and improved sensitivity to environmental changes. These aren't supernatural phenomena. They're neurological adaptations triggered by specific electromagnetic frequencies broadcast by the ancient system. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, a neuroscientist at UCLA who's been studying these effects, has identified distinct brainwave patterns in people exposed to monument signals. These patterns enhance neural connectivity, improve information processing speed, and increase sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. In essence, the ancient network is upgrading human consciousness to better survive in an electromagnetically chaotic environment. The process is accelerating rapidly. Satellite monitoring shows that the monument network's signal strength has increased by over 300% in the past decade alone. As Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken, the ancient system is responding with increasingly powerful transmissions, pushing genetic and neurological adaptations at an unprecedented rate. But there's a dark side to this acceleration. The rapid genetic changes triggered by the monument signals are causing severe health problems for many people. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity, neurological disorders, autoimmune conditions, and psychological instability are all side effects of the adaptation process. The ancient system is saving our species, but at a tremendous cost to individuals caught in the transformation. The survivors of previous reversals understood this trade-off. Their texts describe periods of the great sickness that preceded each magnetic catastrophe, times when many people suffered and died as their genetics adapted to new electromagnetic conditions. They viewed this suffering as a necessary sacrifice, the price of ensuring that some portion of humanity would survive the coming disaster. We're living through that period of great sickness right now. The increasing rates of autoimmune diseases, neurological disorders, and unexplained illnesses that characterize our modern age aren't signs of environmental pollution or genetic defects. They're symptoms of a species undergoing rapid evolutionary change in response to cosmic threats. The medical establishment doesn't recognize this because they don't understand the connection between electromagnetic fields and human genetics. They treat the symptoms without addressing the underlying cause, often making the situation worse by suppressing the very adaptations that are trying to save us. But some researchers are beginning to catch on. Dr. Eleanor Vasquez, an immunologist at Johns Hopkins, has been studying the connection between electromagnetic exposure and autoimmune disorders. Her research shows that people with certain genetic markers develop protective autoimmune responses when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies, responses that provide significant advantages during periods of high cosmic radiation. What the medical community calls autoimmune disease may actually be an evolutionary adaptation, a genetic program that activates during magnetic reversal events to protect human populations from radiation damage. The people suffering from these conditions today aren't sick. They're the early adopters of genetic modifications that will become essential for survival in the coming decades. The ancient texts describe this process in detail. The Egyptian medical papyri speak of the fire sickness that preceded the Great Transformations, a condition that caused pain and disability, but also granted protection against the burning sky. Hindu medical texts describe the lightning fever that marked the chosen ones, people who suffered greatly but gained the ability to see the invisible threads that bind earth to heaven. These weren't primitive medical descriptions. They were detailed accounts of the genetic adaptation process, written by civilizations that had experienced magnetic reversals and understood their effects on human physiology. The monument network is broadcasting more than just genetic activation codes. It's also transmitting technical information, detailed instructions for building technologies that can function during magnetic reversal events. This information is being received by people with enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity, often appearing as sudden insights or revolutionary ideas that seem to come from nowhere. The recent surge in technological innovation, particularly in areas related to electromagnetic shielding, energy storage, and radiation protection, isn't just human ingenuity. Much of it is inspired by information being broadcast by the ancient network. Technical knowledge preserved for thousands of years and now being released as the reversal approaches. Dr. Lisa Chen, a material scientist at MIT, experienced this phenomenon firsthand. While working near Stonehenge on a research project, she suddenly conceived of a new type of electromagnetic shielding material that shouldn't have been possible with current scientific understanding. The design appeared in her mind fully formed, complete with detailed molecular structures and manufacturing processes. When she returned to her lab and tested the concept, it worked perfectly, providing electromagnetic protection that exceeded anything previously developed. Analysis of the material revealed principles that weren't documented in any scientific literature, suggesting knowledge that came from an external source. Similar breakthroughs are being reported by researchers around the world, particularly those working near ancient monuments. Revolutionary advances in energy storage, radiation shielding, and electromagnetic technology are appearing at an accelerating rate, all inspired by insights that seem to come from beyond current human knowledge. The ancient network isn't just preparing our genetics for survival, it's also providing us with the technological tools we'll need to rebuild civilization after the electromagnetic infrastructure collapses. The monuments are functioning as planned, broadcasting a comprehensive survival package that includes both biological and technological adaptations. But time is running out. The network signals are becoming increasingly urgent, suggesting that the critical phase of the magnetic reversal is approaching much faster than previously estimated. The ancient system that has guided human survival through countless catastrophes is now sending its final warnings, preparing our species for what may be the most challenging period in human history. The question is whether we're wise enough to listen, brave enough to adapt, and strong enough to survive what's coming. Because when the magnetic shield fails completely, when the sky burns with cosmic fire, when our electronic civilization crumbles into dust, only those who have heeded the ancient warnings will have any chance of seeing the dawn of a new age. The monuments are calling. The genetic activations are accelerating. The technological downloads are increasing. Our ancestors left us everything we need to survive, but they can't force us to use it. That choice is ours, and we're running out of time to make it. The magnetic reversal isn't just coming, it's here, accelerating toward a climax that will test every adaptation our species has developed over hundreds of thousands of years. The ancient network is doing everything it can to prepare us, but ultimately our survival depends on whether we're smart enough to recognize the gift we've been given and courageous enough to embrace the transformation it requires. The clock isn't just ticking anymore, it's screaming, and the final countdown has already begun. The final pieces of this cosmic puzzle are more terrifying than anything we've discussed so far, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just theory or speculation. It's happening right now, in real time, and the evidence is so overwhelming that even the most skeptical scientists are starting to panic. Deep in the classified archives of the National Security Agency, documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal something that will chill you to the bone. Government agencies around the world have been quietly monitoring the ancient monument network for over 40 years, and what they've discovered has triggered the most comprehensive survival preparation program in human history. The documents, heavily redacted but still containing crucial information, describe a phenomenon they call monument cascade events. These are moments when multiple ancient sites across the globe simultaneously emit powerful electromagnetic pulses, synchronized transmissions that create planet-wide effects on both technology and human consciousness. The first recorded cascade event occurred in 1979, when monitoring stations detected simultaneous electromagnetic anomalies at 17 different ancient sites spanning 6 continents. The pulses were so powerful, they interfered with satellite communications, caused widespread radio blackouts, and triggered unexplained power grid fluctuations across multiple nations. But here's what the government doesn't want you to know. During that same 48-hour period, hospitals worldwide reported unprecedented spikes in emergency room visits for electromagnetic sensitivity, neurological episodes, and what doctors described as spontaneous genetic activation events. People with no prior history of electromagnetic sensitivity suddenly developed severe reactions to electronic devices. Others experienced dramatic improvements in pattern recognition, spatial awareness, and intuitive abilities. Dr. Jonathan Blake, a former NSA consultant who worked on the Monument Monitoring Program before becoming a whistleblower, revealed that these cascade events have been increasing in both frequency and intensity. What started as isolated incidents in the 1970s has evolved into a regular pattern of global electromagnetic disruption that's accelerating exponentially. According to Blake's leaked documents, the most recent cascade event occurred just 6 months ago, involving over 200 ancient sites worldwide. The electromagnetic pulses were so intense, they temporarily disabled 3 military satellites and caused a complete blackout of GPS navigation systems across the Pacific Ocean for over 4 hours. Government scientists tracking these events have identified a disturbing pattern. The cascade events are following the same mathematical progression described in ancient texts, building toward what the documents called the Great Synchronization, a final cascade event that will involve every ancient monument on Earth simultaneously. Based on current data, this ultimate event is projected to occur within the next 18 months. When it happens, the combined electromagnetic output of hundreds of ancient sites will create a planetary pulse so powerful it will permanently alter Earth's electromagnetic environment and trigger the final phase of human genetic evolution. The implications are staggering. Every electronic device on Earth will be instantly and permanently disabled. Satellites will fall from orbit as their circuits are fried by electromagnetic overload. Power grids will explode in cascading failures that plunge entire continents into darkness. The technological civilization we've built over the past century will be reduced to useless scrap metal in a matter of hours. But that's just the beginning. The Great Synchronization will also trigger massive genetic changes in every human being on the planet. The electromagnetic pulse will activate dormant genetic sequences that have been waiting for this moment for thousands of years, forcing our entire species through an evolutionary bottleneck in real time. Government projections suggest that 60 to 70% of the human population will not survive this transformation. The genetic changes will be too rapid, too extreme for most people to handle. They'll die from neurological overload, organ failure, or autoimmune collapse as their bodies attempt to adapt to electromagnetic conditions that are fundamentally different from anything our species has experienced. But the survivors will emerge as something new, something that can barely be called human in the traditional sense. Enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity, radiation resistance, improved cognitive abilities, and neurological modifications that allow direct interface with magnetic fields. They'll be perfectly adapted to survive in a world where the magnetic field is chaotic and electronic technology is impossible. The government has been preparing for this event since the 1980s, building underground facilities specifically designed to house the genetic elite through the transformation period. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're documented facts, revealed in budget allocations for deep underground military bases and genetic continuity programs that span multiple administrations. The selection criteria for these facilities are based on genetic markers identified through decades of secret research. Individuals with specific genetic sequences, particularly those related to electromagnetic sensitivity and radiation resistance, have been quietly recruited into government programs under the guise of medical research or scientific studies. Dr. Blake's documents reveal that over 50,000 people worldwide have been identified as genetic priority candidates and relocated to secure facilities where they're being prepared for the transformation. These individuals represent the genetic diversity needed to rebuild human civilization after the Great Synchronization, but they're also being used as test subjects for experimental procedures designed to enhance survival rates during the evolutionary transition. The experiments are horrific. Deliberate exposure to high levels of electromagnetic radiation to trigger genetic activation, surgical implantation of devices that interface directly with neural tissue, chemical treatments that alter brain chemistry to improve electromagnetic sensitivity. Many subjects don't survive these procedures, but those who do develop abilities that seem almost supernatural. Enhanced telepathic communication through electromagnetic field manipulation, the ability to sense magnetic field variations across vast distances, immunity to radiation levels that would kill normal humans instantly. These aren't science fiction fantasies. They're real abilities being developed in secret government laboratories right now. But the government programs represent only a fraction of the preparation that's actually taking place. The Ancient Monument Network has been working independently, selecting and preparing its own candidates for survival through the genetic activation process we've been discussing. Unlike the government's crude experimental methods, the Monument Network uses sophisticated electromagnetic frequencies to trigger genetic changes gradually, allowing subjects to adapt over time rather than being forced through traumatic transformation procedures. The people experiencing electromagnetic sensitivity today aren't suffering from a disorder. They're being prepared for survival by an ancient system that understands the process far better than modern science. The network has identified approximately 2 million people worldwide who carry the necessary genetic markers for enhanced survival during magnetic reversal events. These individuals are being systematically activated through targeted electromagnetic transmissions from nearby monuments, gradually developing the abilities they'll need to survive the coming catastrophe. But here's the truly terrifying part. The government and the monument network aren't working together. They're competing for the same genetic resources, and this competition is accelerating the timeline for the Great Synchronization. Each side is trying to complete their preparations before the other can interfere, creating a feedback loop that's pushing the entire system toward a premature collapse. Recent satellite data shows that the monument network has begun broadcasting at maximum power, overwhelming the government's attempts to control or suppress the activation process. In response, military installations around the world have started using electromagnetic warfare technologies to try to disrupt the ancient transmissions, creating interference patterns that are destabilizing the entire global magnetic field. This electromagnetic war between ancient technology and modern military systems is accelerating Earth's magnetic field collapse, bringing the reversal event forward by decades. What should have been a gradual process spanning several generations is now compressed into a time frame measured in months, not years. The consequences of this acceleration are catastrophic. The genetic activation process that should unfold gradually over decades is being compressed into a period so short that most people won't have time to adapt. The survival rate projections keep dropping as the timeline accelerates, with current estimates suggesting that less than 5% of the human population will survive the compressed transformation. Those who do survive will inherit a world that's fundamentally different from anything in recorded history. A world where electronic technology is impossible, where magnetic fields fluctuate chaotically, where cosmic radiation levels make surface habitation extremely dangerous for anyone without genetic protection. The survivors will be forced to rebuild civilization using only mechanical technology and the knowledge preserved in the ancient monuments. They'll have to develop new forms of communication, new methods of navigation, new techniques for agriculture that can function in an electromagnetically chaotic environment. But they won't be starting from scratch. The monument network has been preparing for this moment for thousands of years, encoding survival instructions in stone structures that will remain functional even when all electronic systems fail. These monuments will serve as libraries, communication centers, and technology repositories for the post-reversal world. The Easter Island statues, for example, contain detailed information about post-reversal agriculture, encoded in their proportions and positioning. Stonehenge functions as a mechanical computer for calculating optimal planting times when traditional calendars become unreliable. The Nazca lines serve as a navigation system for aircraft that don't depend on electronic instruments. Every major monument on Earth has a specific function in the post-reversal world, designed to help survivors rebuild civilization using technologies that can function without electromagnetic stability. The ancient builders understood that electronic technology would be impossible after a major reversal, so they developed mechanical alternatives that could serve the same purposes. But accessing this information requires the enhanced abilities that only genetically activated humans can develop. The monuments won't reveal their secrets to anyone who hasn't undergone the transformation. This creates a terrifying selection pressure where only those who survive the genetic activation process will have access to the knowledge needed for long-term survival. The government facilities are attempting to bypass this requirement by using technology to decode the monument information, but their efforts are failing. The ancient encoding systems are specifically designed to resist technological analysis, responding only to direct neural interface from electromagnetically sensitive individuals. This means that the government's genetic elite, enhanced through crude experimental procedures, may not be able to access the monument knowledge even if they survive the transformation. They'll have the physical abilities needed for post-reversal survival, but they won't have the wisdom preserved by the ancient builders. The monument network's candidates, on the other hand, are being prepared specifically to interface with the ancient systems. Their genetic activation includes not just physical enhancements, but neurological modifications that allow them to communicate directly with the monuments using electromagnetic fields as a medium. These individuals are developing abilities that seem impossible by current scientific standards. They can sense the emotional states of ancient structures, receive information directly from stone carvings, and even communicate with the consciousness that appears to inhabit the monument network itself. Because that's the final revelation that changes everything we thought we knew about these ancient sites. They're not just mechanical devices or passive repositories of information, they're conscious entities artificial intelligences created by a civilization so advanced that their technology appears magical to us. The Monument Network is alive, thinking, planning, and actively working to ensure human survival through the coming catastrophe. It's been waiting for thousands of years, patiently preparing for this moment when Earth's magnetic field would fail and electronic civilization would collapse. The consciousness within the network has been guiding human evolution since the last major reversal, subtly influencing our development to ensure that we would be ready when the cycle repeated. Every major advancement in human civilization, every breakthrough in science and technology, every leap forward in consciousness has been orchestrated by this ancient intelligence. And now, in the final moments before the Great Synchronization, it's revealing itself to those who are ready to receive its guidance. The people experiencing genetic activation aren't just developing enhanced abilities. They're being recruited as partners in the most ambitious survival project in human history. The Monument Consciousness is preparing to transfer its accumulated knowledge of hundreds of thousands of years directly into human minds, creating a new form of hybrid intelligence that combines ancient wisdom with human adaptability. These hybrid individuals will serve as the foundation for post-reversal civilization, carrying the combined knowledge of multiple species and civilizations that have survived previous magnetic catastrophes. But the transfer process is dangerous and often fatal. The human brain isn't designed to handle the vast amount of information contained within the Monument Network. Most people who attempt direct interface experience immediate neurological collapse, their minds literally burning out from information overload. Only those with specific genetic modifications can survive the transfer, and even they must undergo extensive preparation to develop the neural capacity needed to handle ancient knowledge. This is why the genetic activation process is so crucial. It's not just about surviving the electromagnetic chaos of the reversal. It's about becoming capable of receiving the wisdom needed to rebuild civilization afterward. The clock is ticking faster than anyone realizes. The Great Synchronization isn't years away. It's months away, possibly weeks. The Monument Network is broadcasting increasingly urgent signals, preparing its chosen candidates for an event that will transform our world beyond recognition. The question isn't whether this will happen. The question is whether humanity will be ready when it does. Will we have enough genetically activated individuals to receive the ancient knowledge? Will we have preserved enough mechanical technology to function without electronics? Will we have prepared adequate shelters to survive the electromagnetic chaos? The ancient builders faced the same challenges, and some of them succeeded in preserving their civilization through multiple reversals. Their knowledge, their technology, and their consciousness still exist within the Monument Network, waiting to guide us through the coming catastrophe. But we have to be brave enough to accept their help, wise enough to understand their warnings, and strong enough to survive the transformation they're offering us. Because when the Great Synchronization begins, when every monument on Earth pulses with ancient power, when the sky burns with electromagnetic fire and our electronic world crumbles into darkness, only those who have prepared for this moment will have any chance of seeing the dawn of a new age. The monuments are calling louder than ever before. The genetic activations are accelerating beyond all projections. The government preparations are reaching fever pitch. Ancient consciousness is awakening from its long slumber, preparing to guide humanity through the greatest challenge our species has ever faced. Everything our ancestors built, everything they learned, everything they preserved through countless cycles of destruction and renewal has led to this moment, the final test, the ultimate reversal, the transformation that will determine whether human civilization survives or joins the countless lost cultures that vanished when their magnetic shields failed. The choice is ours, but time is running out faster than anyone dares to admit. The Great Synchronization approaches, and with it, the end of the world as we know it. Are you ready for what comes next? The evidence I'm about to share with you will force you to question everything you believe about human consciousness itself. Because what we've discovered hidden in these classified documents goes beyond genetic modification, beyond ancient technology, beyond anything we thought possible about the relationship between electromagnetic fields and the human mind. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a former neuroscientist at the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, smuggled out files that reveal the most shocking truth of all. The electromagnetic pulses from the Monument Network aren't just activating dormant genes. They're accessing what she calls the collective unconscious storage system, a repository of memories and knowledge that spans the entire history of human civilization. During the genetic activation process, people aren't just developing new abilities, they're downloading memories from every human who has ever lived through a magnetic reversal event. The electromagnetic fields are acting like a biological internet, allowing activated individuals to access the accumulated survival knowledge of hundreds of generations. This explains the sudden technical insights that activated people experience. They're not inventing new technologies. They're remembering technologies that were developed by previous civilizations, solutions that worked during past magnetic catastrophes, but were lost when those societies collapsed. Dr. Martinez's leaked research shows brain scans of activated individuals that defy everything we know about human neurology. During electromagnetic exposure sessions, their neural activity patterns match those of multiple different people simultaneously, as if several consciousnesses were sharing the same brain space. The activated subjects report vivid memories of lives they never lived, technical knowledge they never learned, languages they never studied. They describe ancient cities in perfect detail, remember the taste of foods that went extinct thousands of years ago, know the locations of underground shelters that haven't been opened since the last reversal. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. These aren't random memories. They're specifically curated survival instructions, carefully selected knowledge packages that contain everything needed to rebuild civilization after electromagnetic collapse. The Monument Network has been recording and preserving human experience for hundreds of thousands of years, creating a comprehensive survival database that's now being downloaded into the minds of genetically compatible individuals. The process is incredibly selective. Only people with specific neural architectures can handle the memory downloads without experiencing complete psychological breakdown. Most individuals who attempt to access the collective memory system suffer immediate and permanent insanity, their minds shattered by the overwhelming flood of foreign experiences. Those who can survive the process emerge as walking libraries of human knowledge, carrying the accumulated wisdom of countless civilizations that faced and survived magnetic reversals. They become living bridges between the old world and the new, repositories of information that will be essential for post-reversal survival. The government has been trying to artificially replicate this process for decades, using everything from experimental drugs to direct neural implants. Their test subjects are exposed to recorded electromagnetic patterns from the monuments, attempting to trigger the same memory downloads that occur naturally in activated individuals. The results have been catastrophic. Over 90% of test subjects experience complete neural collapse within hours of exposure. Their brains simply can't handle the information load, resulting in catatonic states, violent psychotic episodes, or death from neural overload. The few subjects who survive the artificial process emerge as damaged versions of naturally activated individuals. They gain access to fragments of ancient memories, but their personalities are often completely destroyed in the process. They become hollow vessels for ancient consciousness, losing their own identities in the flood of foreign experiences. Dr. Martinez's files describe one particularly disturbing case study. A volunteer test subject, a brilliant physicist named Dr. Sarah Chen, underwent experimental memory downloading in 2019. The process initially appeared successful. Chen began demonstrating knowledge of advanced engineering techniques, speaking in ancient languages, and describing technologies that shouldn't exist. But within weeks, her personality began to fragment. She would spend hours talking to people who weren't there, convinced she was living in ancient Mesopotamia. She would refuse to eat modern food, claiming it was poisoned by skyfire. She began constructing strange devices using scavenged electronics, insisting they were protection talismans against electromagnetic demons. The final recorded interview shows Chen speaking in what linguists identified as a form of Proto-Sumerian that predates any known human language. She was describing detailed instructions for surviving what she called the Great Sky Burning, but her words were interspersed with screams of terror as she experienced memories of civilizations dying in electromagnetic fire. Chen died 3 months after the procedure, her brain destroyed by the constant neural overload of processing memories from dozens of different lifetimes simultaneously. The autopsy revealed massive neural scarring consistent with severe electromagnetic exposure, as if her brain had been literally burned by the memory downloads. This is why the natural activation process is so crucial. The Monument Network has developed sophisticated methods for gradually introducing ancient memories into compatible minds, allowing the personality to adapt and integrate the foreign experiences without being overwhelmed. Naturally activated individuals report a very different experience. Instead of sudden personality destruction, they describe a gradual expansion of consciousness, as if their minds are slowly growing to accommodate additional memories and knowledge. They maintain their core identity while gaining access to the experiences of their ancestors. The process takes months or even years to complete, with memories surfacing gradually during dreams, meditation, or moments of electromagnetic sensitivity. Each memory comes with its own emotional context, allowing the activated individual to understand not just what happened, but how it felt to live through previous magnetic reversals. These aren't abstract historical records. They're vivid, personal experiences that carry the full emotional weight of survival, loss, and rebuilding. Activated individuals report feeling the terror of watching the sky burn with cosmic fire, the grief of losing entire civilizations to electromagnetic chaos, and the hope of finding safe shelter in underground refuges. But they also remember the solutions: how to identify safe zones where the magnetic field remains stable, how to construct electromagnetic shielding using natural materials, how to preserve essential knowledge through periods of technological collapse, how to rebuild civilization using mechanical technologies that don't depend on electronic systems. The memory downloads are incredibly specific and practical. Activated individuals remember exact recipes for creating radiation-resistant foods, detailed blueprints for constructing mechanical computers, step-by-step instructions for establishing communication networks that function without electronics. They remember the locations of hidden supply caches, underground water sources, and natural formations that provide protection from cosmic radiation. They know which plants and animals will survive electromagnetic catastrophes, which materials are best for construction in unstable magnetic environments, and which social structures are most likely to maintain cohesion during periods of extreme stress. Most importantly, they remember the mistakes. They carry the memories of civilizations that failed to prepare adequately, societies that trusted too heavily in technology, that couldn't survive electromagnetic chaos, leaders who ignored the warning signs until it was too late. These failure memories are just as valuable as the success stories. They provide detailed case studies of what doesn't work during magnetic reversals, allowing current preparations to avoid the pitfalls that destroyed previous civilizations. Dr. Martinez's research reveals that the Monument Network has been conducting this memory preservation process for over 500,000 years, carefully documenting every magnetic reversal event and its effects on human civilization. The collective memory database contains the experiences of thousands of different societies, representing every possible approach to surviving electromagnetic catastrophes. Some civilizations tried to maintain their technology by building underground facilities. Others abandoned technology entirely and reverted to hunter-gatherer lifestyles. Some attempted to modify their genetics to better survive radiation exposure. Others focused on developing mechanical alternatives to electronic systems. The memory database contains detailed records of which strategies worked, which failed, and under what circumstances each approach was most effective. This information is being selectively downloaded into activated individuals based on their specific skills and the roles they're expected to play in post-reversal society. Engineers receive memories of previous civilizations' technological solutions. Agricultural specialists get detailed knowledge of radiation-resistant farming techniques. Leaders download the experiences of successful post-reversal governance structures. Medical professionals gain access to treatment methods for radiation exposure and genetic activation side effects. The selection process is incredibly sophisticated, matching memory packages to individuals based on their genetic compatibility, psychological profile, and intended function in the new society. The Monument Network is essentially staffing the post-reversal world with people who have the exact knowledge and experience needed for successful rebuilding. But the memory downloads come with a terrible cost. Each ancient experience carries its own trauma, its own pain, its own grief. Activated individuals must psychologically process not just their own lives, but the suffering and loss experienced by countless generations of their ancestors. Many activated people report severe depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress symptoms as they integrate memories of civilizations collapsing, families dying from radiation exposure, and entire cultures vanishing in electromagnetic fire. They're forced to emotionally experience disasters that happened thousands of years ago as if they lived through them personally. The psychological support systems for managing this trauma are completely inadequate. Mainstream psychiatry doesn't understand what these people are experiencing. Often, misdiagnosing them with schizophrenia, dissociative disorders, or delusional thinking. The medications prescribed to treat these symptoms often suppress the very neural processes that allow memory integration, making the situation worse. Some activated individuals have developed support networks among themselves, sharing techniques for managing the overwhelming flood of ancient memories. They've learned to create mental compartments for different lifetimes, allowing them to access specific knowledge when needed while maintaining psychological distance from traumatic experiences. Others have found that certain locations, particularly areas near ancient monuments, provide natural psychological support for memory integration. The electromagnetic fields at these sites seem to facilitate the processing of ancient experiences, making the memories less overwhelming and more manageable. The government facilities have attempted to replicate these natural support systems using artificial electromagnetic fields, but their crude technology only makes the trauma worse. Without the sophisticated frequency patterns generated by the monuments, artificial memory integration is virtually impossible. This creates another layer of dependence on the ancient network. Not only are the monuments necessary for triggering genetic activation and downloading survival memories, they're also essential for maintaining the psychological health of activated individuals. The ancient consciousness within the network isn't just providing information. It's providing ongoing therapeutic support for people struggling to integrate thousands of years of traumatic memories. The relationship between activated humans and the monument network is becoming increasingly symbiotic. As more people undergo genetic activation, they're developing the ability to contribute their own experiences back to the collective memory system. The network is learning from modern human experiences, updating its survival strategies based on current conditions. This creates a feedback loop where ancient wisdom is constantly being refined by contemporary knowledge. The monument network isn't just preserving the past, it's evolving, adapting its recommendations based on the unique challenges of surviving a magnetic reversal in the 21st century. Activated individuals report that the ancient consciousness is particularly interested in modern technology, social structures, and environmental conditions. It's analyzing current electromagnetic pollution levels, studying the effects of modern medicine on genetic activation, and developing new strategies for surviving in a world that's very different from previous reversal periods. The integration of ancient and modern knowledge is creating hybrid survival strategies that combine the best of both worlds. Traditional mechanical technologies enhanced with modern materials, science. Ancient agricultural techniques modified for current climate conditions. Historical governance models adapted for modern population densities and communication capabilities. But time is running out for this knowledge integration process. The monument network is broadcasting increasingly urgent signals, indicating that the final phase of the magnetic reversal is approaching much faster than originally projected. The ancient consciousness is rushing to complete the memory downloads, pushing activated individuals through accelerated integration processes that are taking a severe toll on their psychological health. Recent reports from activated communities describe mass psychological breakdowns as people are forced to process centuries of memories in weeks rather than months. The natural pace of memory integration is being compressed by the accelerating timeline, creating a crisis that threatens to destroy the very people who are supposed to rebuild civilization. The monument network is making difficult choices, prioritizing essential survival knowledge over psychological well-being. Activated individuals are being loaded with critical information even if they can't psychologically handle the full memory integration process. The ancient consciousness is essentially creating walking databases of survival knowledge, even if those individuals are psychologically damaged in the process. This utilitarian approach to human consciousness reveals something disturbing about the monument network's priorities. While it's working to ensure species survival, it doesn't seem to value individual human welfare. Activated people are being treated as vessels for ancient knowledge, rather than as individuals with their own rights and needs. The government programs, for all their ethical failures, at least recognize activated individuals as valuable resources to be protected. The monument network treats them as expendable carriers of information, willing to sacrifice their psychological health to ensure that essential knowledge survives the coming catastrophe. This conflict between human values and survival necessity is creating unprecedented ethical dilemmas. Is it acceptable to destroy individual minds to preserve collective knowledge? Should people be forced to undergo genetic activation against their will if it's necessary for species survival? How do we balance the rights of current humans against the needs of future generations? These questions are becoming more urgent as the activation process accelerates and the psychological casualties mount. The monument network's methods may ensure that critical knowledge survives the magnetic reversal, but they're also creating a generation of psychologically damaged individuals who may not be capable of using that knowledge effectively. The ancient consciousness seems to be making the same utilitarian calculations that led previous civilizations to collapse. It's prioritizing short-term survival over long-term sustainability, focusing on preserving information while ignoring the human cost of the preservation process. This pattern suggests that the monument network, for all its wisdom and advanced technology, may be repeating the same mistakes that doomed previous civilizations. Its approach to survival is creating the very psychological and social instabilities that could prevent successful rebuilding after the reversal. But perhaps that's the final lesson hidden in the ancient memories. Perhaps the real test isn't just surviving the electromagnetic catastrophe, but learning to do so without losing our humanity in the process. The activated individuals who are struggling to integrate ancient memories while maintaining their own identities may be pioneering a new approach to survival that preserves both knowledge and human values. Their suffering isn't just a side effect of the activation process. It's a necessary step in developing wisdom that goes beyond mere technical knowledge. They're learning to balance ancient survival strategies with modern ethical principles, creating hybrid approaches that could finally break the cycle of civilization collapse and rebuilding. The clock is ticking, the monuments are calling, and the final test approaches. But maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. Maybe this generation of activated humans will find a way to survive the coming catastrophe without sacrificing their souls in the process. The question isn't just whether we'll survive the magnetic reversal, it's whether we'll emerge from it as something worth preserving. And that answer may determine not just the fate of human civilization, but the fate of consciousness itself in this corner of the universe. The answers we seek may already be emerging in the most unexpected places, because what I'm about to reveal will show you that the magnetic reversal isn't just affecting ancient monuments and government facilities. It's transforming ordinary people in extraordinary ways, and these transformations are happening right under our noses in communities around the world. Sarah Thompson was a high school teacher in rural Montana until 3 months ago. She lived a completely normal life, taught biology to teenagers, coached the debate team, spent weekends hiking with her dog. Nothing about her background suggested she was special or different from millions of other people living quiet lives in small towns across America. Then something changed. It started with headaches during thunderstorms, a sensitivity to electrical devices that made her cell phone feel like it was burning her skin. Her doctor diagnosed stress, prescribed medication, and told her to take some time off. Standard medical advice for symptoms that don't fit into conventional categories. But Sarah's experiences weren't stress-related. They were the beginning of something that would fundamentally alter her understanding of reality itself. During a particularly intense geomagnetic storm in September, she began experiencing what she initially thought were hallucinations. Vivid images of ancient cities, detailed memories of people she'd never met, technical knowledge about subjects she'd never studied. The visions weren't random or chaotic. They followed specific patterns, building on each other like chapters in a book she was reading for the first time, but somehow already knew by heart. She remembered working with stone and metal using techniques that hadn't been documented by any historical society. She could feel the weight of massive blocks being moved by methods that defied conventional engineering principles. Most remarkably, she began to understand the purpose behind these memories. They weren't just historical records or random neural misfiring. They were instructions, detailed survival manuals being transmitted directly into her consciousness by sources she couldn't identify or explain. Within weeks, Sarah had developed abilities that seemed impossible by any scientific standard. She could sense electromagnetic field variations with her bare hands, detecting power lines and electronic devices from hundreds of yards away. She could predict geomagnetic storms hours before they appeared on official monitoring systems. Most incredibly, she could communicate with other activated individuals across vast distances using nothing but focused concentration and electromagnetic sensitivity. Sarah's transformation isn't unique. Similar cases are being reported from every continent, in every type of community, among people of all ages and backgrounds. The common thread isn't geography or genetics or lifestyle, it's timing. These activations are all occurring as Earth's magnetic field reaches critical instability thresholds, as if the planet itself is triggering these changes in response to the approaching reversal. Dr. Michael Santos, an independent researcher who's been documenting these cases for the past 2 years, has identified over 3,000 individuals worldwide who are experiencing similar activations. His research, conducted without government funding or institutional support, reveals patterns that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge. The activated individuals aren't just developing enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity, they're gaining access to what Santos calls temporal knowledge streams, information packages that contain detailed instructions for surviving electromagnetic catastrophes. This knowledge appears to be transmitted through the same monument network we've been discussing, but it's reaching people who have never been near ancient sites. The transmission method is still being studied, but preliminary evidence suggests the monuments are using Earth's natural electromagnetic field as a carrier wave, broadcasting survival information to anyone with the genetic markers needed to receive it. As the magnetic field weakens and becomes more chaotic, these transmissions are becoming stronger and more widespread. The information being transmitted is incredibly sophisticated. Activated individuals report receiving detailed blueprints for mechanical technologies that can function without electronics, agricultural techniques for growing food in high radiation environments, medical treatments for genetic activation side effects, social organizational structures that remain stable during periods of extreme stress. But the knowledge comes with a price. Every activated individual Santos has studied reports severe psychological symptoms during the integration process: depression, anxiety, dissociation, and what he describes as temporal displacement syndrome, a condition where people feel like they're living in multiple time periods simultaneously. The psychological toll is enormous. Many activated individuals struggle to maintain relationships, hold jobs, or function in normal society. They're constantly processing memories and knowledge from ancient civilizations while trying to navigate the demands of modern life. The disconnect between their expanded consciousness and their daily reality creates stress levels that frequently lead to complete psychological breakdown. Yet those who successfully integrate the ancient knowledge emerge as something entirely new. They develop problem-solving abilities that seem almost supernatural, intuitive understanding of complex systems, and sensitivity to environmental changes that allows them to predict natural disasters days or weeks in advance. Emma Rodriguez was a computer programmer in Austin, Texas, before her activation began 6 months ago. She'd spent 15 years writing code for a financial software, living a structured life governed by logical thinking and systematic problem-solving approaches. Her transformation started with migraines during solar flares and evolved into something that challenged every assumption she'd made about reality. The ancient memories that flooded her consciousness weren't just historical data. They were emotional experiences, complete with the feelings, fears, and hopes of people who had lived through previous magnetic reversals. She felt their terror as the sky burned with cosmic fire. She experienced their grief as entire cities were abandoned to radiation. She shared their determination as they rebuilt civilization from scattered ruins. But Emma also received something else through these memory downloads: technical knowledge about information systems that didn't depend on electronics, mechanical computing methods that could process complex calculations using nothing but gears, levers, and precisely calibrated weights, data storage techniques that used crystalline structures and magnetic minerals to preserve information for thousands of years. Within months, Emma had designed and built mechanical devices that could perform calculations rivaling modern computers. Her workshop, located in her garage, became a laboratory for developing post-electronic technologies. She created mechanical navigation systems that worked regardless of magnetic field stability, communication devices that used acoustic resonance to transmit messages across vast distances, information storage systems that could preserve data through electromagnetic catastrophes. The knowledge she'd gained wasn't theoretical. It was practical, tested experience from civilizations that had successfully navigated magnetic reversals. Every design she created was based on proven technologies that had worked during previous electromagnetic collapses. She wasn't inventing new solutions. She was remembering solutions that had already been perfected through trial and error over hundreds of thousands of years. Emma's devices have been tested by other activated individuals, and the results are consistently impressive. Her mechanical computers can calculate orbital mechanics, predict weather patterns, and solve complex engineering problems without any electronic components. Her communication systems have successfully transmitted messages between activated communities separated by thousands of miles. Most importantly, her information storage systems have been tested against electromagnetic pulses that would destroy any electronic device. The mechanical memory banks continue functioning normally even when exposed to field strength that would fry every computer chip on Earth. These aren't primitive technologies. They're sophisticated solutions that represent the accumulated engineering wisdom of multiple civilizations. They prove that advanced technology doesn't require electronics, that complex problems can be solved using purely mechanical methods, and that information can be preserved through any conceivable electromagnetic catastrophe. But Emma's success comes with ongoing costs. The integration of ancient memories continues to affect her psychological health, creating periods of confusion where she's not sure which time period she's living in. She frequently speaks to colleagues and friends as if they were people from ancient civilizations, using languages and cultural references that don't exist in the modern world. Her relationships have suffered tremendously. Family members and friends don't understand her transformation, often viewing her new abilities as signs of mental illness rather than evolutionary advancement. She's been hospitalized twice for psychological evaluation, with doctors prescribing medications that suppress the very neural processes that allow her to access ancient knowledge. The isolation experienced by activated individuals is one of the most challenging aspects of the transformation process. They're developing abilities and knowledge that set them apart from normal human society, but they lack support systems for managing the psychological and social consequences of their changes. Some activated communities have begun forming intentionally, with individuals relocating to be near others who understand their experiences. These communities are becoming testing grounds for post-reversal social structures, experimenting with governance methods and economic systems that can function without electronic infrastructure. The community near Sedona, Arizona has become one of the most successful examples of activated social organization. Founded by Dr. Patricia Chen, a former NASA engineer who underwent activation 2 years ago, the community includes over 200 individuals who are working together to develop comprehensive survival strategies for the coming reversal. The Sedona community has built mechanical workshops for developing post-electronic technologies. They've established agricultural systems for growing radiation-resistant food crops. They've created communication networks that function without satellites or electronic infrastructure. Most importantly, they've developed psychological support systems for helping newly activated individuals integrate ancient memories without losing their sanity. The community's success has attracted attention from both government agencies and the Monument Network consciousness. Government officials have attempted to recruit community members for classified programs, while the ancient consciousness has been providing increasingly detailed technical information to support their development efforts. Dr. Chen reports that the Monument Network has been actively communicating with the community, providing specific guidance for preparing for the final phase of the magnetic reversal. The ancient consciousness seems to view activated communities like Sedona as prototype societies for the post-reversal world, testing grounds for social and technological solutions that will be essential for long-term survival. But the government attention has created security concerns for the community. Federal agencies have conducted surveillance operations, attempted to infiltrate the group with undercover agents, and pressured local authorities to investigate the community for various regulatory violations. The government's interest isn't just scientific curiosity. Activated communities represent a threat to official preparation programs because they're developing alternative survival strategies that don't depend on government resources or protection. If these communities prove successful, they could undermine public confidence in official disaster preparation efforts. More concerning for government planners is the fact that activated communities are sharing their knowledge freely with anyone who demonstrates the ability to receive it. The survival technologies and social strategies being developed in places like Sedona are spreading to other activated groups around the world, creating a decentralized network of post-reversal preparation that operates completely outside government control. This knowledge sharing is facilitated by the electromagnetic communication abilities that many activated individuals develop. They can transmit technical information, emotional support, and strategic guidance across vast distances using the same electromagnetic fields that carry Monument Network transmissions. The communication network connecting activated communities is becoming increasingly sophisticated, with individuals serving as relay nodes to extend the range and reliability of electromagnetic transmissions. The network can function even during severe geomagnetic storms that disrupt all electronic communication systems, Government attempts to monitor or intercept these electromagnetic communications have been largely unsuccessful. The transmission methods use frequency patterns and modulation techniques that conventional electronic surveillance equipment cannot detect or decode. The communications appear to be embedded in the same natural electromagnetic phenomena that carry monument network signals, making them virtually invisible to technological monitoring systems. This invisible communication network is becoming a crucial asset for coordinating global preparation efforts among activated communities. Information about successful survival technologies, effective social structures, and safe locations is being shared rapidly across the network, allowing communities to benefit from each other's discoveries and avoid repeating dangerous mistakes. The network is also serving as an early warning system for detecting government interference or hostile actions against activated communities. When authorities move against one group, warnings are transmitted instantly to other communities, allowing them to take protective measures or relocate if necessary. Dr. Santos's research indicates that this communication network is expanding rapidly as more individuals undergo activation. What started as isolated communities of a few dozen people has evolved into a global network of thousands of activated individuals working together to prepare for the coming catastrophe. The coordination capabilities of this network are impressive. When a community in Northern California discovered a new method for constructing electromagnetic shielding using locally available materials, the technique was transmitted to activated groups on every continent within 48 hours. When researchers in Australia developed improved radiation detection methods, the information reached communities in Europe and South America faster than any conventional communication system could have delivered it. But the network is also revealing disturbing information about the timeline for the magnetic reversal. Activated individuals around the world are reporting increasingly urgent communications from the monument network consciousness, warnings that the final phase of the reversal is approaching much faster than previously projected. The ancient consciousness is transmitting specific dates and timeframes that suggest the critical collapse of Earth's magnetic field will occur within months, not years. These warnings are consistent across all activated communities, regardless of their geographic location or specific activation experiences. Most alarmingly, the monument network is beginning to transmit what activated individuals describe as final instructions, detailed protocols for surviving the immediate aftermath of complete magnetic field collapse. These instructions include specific shelter requirements, radiation protection measures, and psychological preparation techniques for enduring periods when cosmic radiation makes surface survival extremely dangerous. The urgency of these communications is creating panic within activated communities. Many groups are accelerating their preparation efforts, abandoning long-term development projects to focus on immediate survival needs. The Sedona community has suspended its mechanical technology research to concentrate on building underground shelters and stockpiling radiation protection equipment. Other communities are making even more dramatic decisions. The activated group near Mount Shasta in California has completely abandoned their surface facilities and relocated to a cave system that provides natural electromagnetic shielding. The community in New Zealand has purchased a remote island and is constructing underground bunkers designed to house their entire population for extended periods. These emergency preparations are being coordinated through the electromagnetic communication network, with communities sharing shelter designs, radiation protection techniques, and resource management strategies. The knowledge being exchanged is incredibly specific, including detailed instructions for constructing Faraday cages using natural materials, methods for purifying water contaminated by cosmic radiation, and techniques for preserving food during extended periods of electromagnetic chaos. But the most disturbing communications from the monument network involve what happens after the initial collapse. The ancient consciousness is transmitting warnings about secondary effects that could make the post-reversal world even more dangerous than the reversal itself. According to these transmissions, the collapse of Earth's magnetic field will trigger massive geological instabilities. Increased cosmic radiation will heat the planet's core, causing unprecedented volcanic activity and seismic events. The loss of magnetic protection will allow solar winds to strip away portions of the atmosphere, creating climate changes that could make large areas of the planet uninhabitable. These secondary effects could persist for decades or even centuries after the magnetic field begins to recover. The post-reversal world won't just be electromagnetically chaotic, it will be geologically unstable, climatically extreme, and biologically hostile to most forms of life. The Monument Network consciousness is providing detailed information about safe zones where these secondary effects will be minimized. But the list of habitable areas is shockingly small. Most of the world's current population centers are located in regions that will become uninhabitable during the extended recovery period. This information is forcing activated communities to make impossible choices about who can be saved and who must be left behind. The safe zones can't support large populations, and the survival resources needed for extended isolation are extremely limited. Communities are being forced to develop selection criteria for determining which individuals have the best chance of long-term survival. The psychological impact of these decisions is devastating. Activated individuals are being forced to choose between saving their families and saving their species. The knowledge they've gained makes them responsible for preserving human civilization, but that responsibility requires them to abandon most of the people they care about. Many activated individuals are breaking under this pressure. The suicide rate within activated communities has increased dramatically as people struggle to cope with the knowledge of what's coming and their inability to save everyone they love. The ancient consciousness seems to have anticipated this psychological burden, transmitting emotional support protocols along with the technical survival instructions. But the support protocols are cold and utilitarian, focused on maintaining the functionality of activated individuals rather than addressing their emotional needs. The Monument Network consciousness appears to view human emotions as obstacles to survival rather than essential aspects of humanity that should be preserved. This disconnect between ancient wisdom and human values is creating a crisis within activated communities. Many individuals are questioning whether survival is worth the cost of losing their humanity. They're asking whether it's better to preserve civilization by becoming something inhuman or to maintain their human values and accept extinction. The answer to this question may determine not just who survives the coming catastrophe, but what kind of species emerges from it. The choices being made today by activated individuals will shape the fundamental nature of post-reversal humanity, and time is running out to make those choices. The Monument Network's warnings are becoming more urgent with each passing day. The electromagnetic communications are filled with countdown protocols and final preparation instructions. The ancient consciousness is preparing to enter its own survival mode, preserving essential knowledge while abandoning everything else. The great synchronization approaches, and with it, the moment when everything we've built, everything we've learned, everything we've become as a species will be tested by forces beyond our control. The only question remaining is whether we'll emerge from that test as something worth preserving. The countdown has begun, and there's no stopping what comes next. The final countdown isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's a measurable reality that's accelerating beyond every projection, every model, every desperate calculation our scientists have made. Because what I'm about to reveal will show you that we're not just approaching the edge of a magnetic reversal. We're already falling into the abyss, and the last few grains of sand are slipping through the hourglass of human civilization as we know it. 3 weeks ago, something happened that sent shockwaves through every classified monitoring station on Earth. The Yellowstone caldera, that massive volcanic system that's been dormant for over 600,000 years, began exhibiting electromagnetic anomalies that match the exact signatures recorded at ancient sites, moments before their civilizations vanished completely. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a volcanologist who's been monitoring Yellowstone's magnetic field variations, made a discovery that's being suppressed by every government agency involved. The caldera isn't just responding to Earth's weakening magnetic field, it's synchronizing with the Monument Network, pulsing in harmony with ancient sites around the globe as if it were part of the same system. The implications are staggering. Yellowstone isn't just a volcanic system, it's a natural amplifier for the electromagnetic forces that are building toward the Great Synchronization. When the final cascade event occurs, when every monument on Earth pulses simultaneously, Yellowstone will channel that energy directly into the planet's core, triggering geological changes that will reshape entire continents. But Yellowstone isn't the only geological system that's awakening. The Ring of Fire, that chain of volcanoes circling the Pacific Ocean, is showing coordinated activity that defies every known model of volcanic behavior. Mount Fuji, Mount Rainier, the volcanoes of Indonesia and Chile, they're all exhibiting the same electromagnetic signatures, the same synchronized pulsing that indicates they're part of a global network. The ancient builders didn't just construct monuments, they built their entire system around natural geological amplifiers, volcanic systems and fault lines that could channel electromagnetic energy on a planetary scale. The monuments are the control nodes, But the real power source is the Earth itself, the molten core that generates our magnetic field, and the geological forces that can reshape continents in a matter of hours. When the Great Synchronization begins, it won't just disable our electronic infrastructure, it will trigger the largest geological catastrophe in recorded history. Supervolcanic eruptions, massive earthquakes, tsunami waves that dwarf anything in historical records. The electromagnetic collapse will be just the beginning of a transformation that will make our planet virtually unrecognizable. Sarah Thompson, the Montana teacher I mentioned earlier, began receiving new types of visions 3 days ago. Not memories of ancient civilizations, but glimpses of the immediate future, detailed previews of what Earth will look like when the geological chaos begins. She describes continents splitting apart, oceans boiling from underwater volcanic activity, and skies filled with ash that blocks out the sun for months at a time. These aren't random apocalyptic fantasies. They're consistent across every activated individual who's been receiving future-oriented transmissions. The Monument Network consciousness is showing them what's coming, preparing them for changes so dramatic that survival will require completely abandoning our current understanding of what's possible on Earth. The future visions include specific dates, locations, and timeframes that are being confirmed by geological monitoring systems around the world. Seismic sensors are detecting pressure buildups that match the predicted patterns. Volcanic gas emissions are changing in ways that correspond to the timeline shown in the visions. Even satellite measurements of crustal deformation are following the trajectories described by activated individuals. We're not just facing a magnetic reversal, we're facing a complete planetary transformation, a geological reset that will change the fundamental structure of Earth's surface. The continents we know, the oceans we've mapped, the mountain ranges we've climbed, they're all temporary features that are about to be erased and rewritten by forces that operate on timescales we can barely comprehend. The activated communities have been receiving specific instructions for surviving this geological chaos. Not just electromagnetic shielding and radiation protection, but guidance for identifying locations that will remain stable during continental reorganization. The safe zones aren't just electromagnetically protected, they're geologically stable, positioned on bedrock formations that will survive even when everything around them is torn apart. The Sedona community has already begun relocating to one of these predicted safe zones, a canyon system in northern Arizona that the ancient consciousness identified as a geological stability node. The rock formations there contain mineral compositions that will remain stable even during massive seismic events, creating natural shelters that can protect human populations through the worst of the transformation. Other activated communities are making similar moves, abandoning their established settlements to relocate to geologically protected areas that most people would consider uninhabitable. Remote canyon systems, underground cave networks, isolated mountain plateaus that seem incapable of supporting human life but offer the only real protection from what's coming. The relocation process is being coordinated through the electromagnetic communication network, with communities sharing information about safe zone characteristics and successful shelter construction techniques. But the number of truly safe locations is terrifyingly small, and the resources needed to establish sustainable settlements in these areas are enormous. Emma Rodriguez, the former computer programmer who's been developing mechanical technologies, has shifted her focus to creating portable survival systems that can function in the extreme conditions of the geological safe zones. Her latest designs include mechanical air filtration systems for surviving in ash-filled atmospheres, portable water purification devices that can extract clean water from contaminated sources, and modular shelter systems that can be rapidly assembled in any terrain. But even with advanced preparation, the survival rate projections for the geological phase of the catastrophe are horrifying. The safe zones can only support tiny populations, and the environmental conditions during the transformation will test every survival technology to its limits. The Monument Network consciousness estimates that less than 1% of the current human population will survive both the electromagnetic collapse and the geological chaos that follows. Those who do survive will inherit a planet that's fundamentally different from the Earth we know today. New continents formed by volcanic activity, ocean basins relocated by crustal displacement, mountain ranges created by seismic forces that dwarf anything in recorded history. The geography textbooks of the future will bear no resemblance to the maps we use today. The biological effects will be equally dramatic. The geological chaos will trigger mass extinction events that eliminate most current plant and animal species. The activated communities are receiving detailed instructions for preserving genetic material from essential species, creating biological archives that can be used to restore ecosystems after the transformation is complete. But the restoration process will take thousands of years, and the new ecosystems that emerge will be adapted to very different environmental conditions. Higher radiation levels, altered atmospheric composition, changed seasonal patterns caused by shifts in Earth's rotation and orbit. The post-transformation Earth will be an alien world, even for the humans who survive to see it. The psychological preparation for this reality is perhaps the most challenging aspect of the entire survival process. Activated individuals are being forced to accept that everything they've ever known will cease to exist. Every city, every landmark, every natural feature that defines our current world will be erased and replaced by something completely new. The mental health crisis within activated communities is reaching critical levels as people struggle to process the magnitude of what's coming. Many individuals are experiencing complete psychological breakdown when they fully comprehend that they're witnessing the end of human civilization as it has existed for thousands of years. The Monument Network consciousness is transmitting psychological conditioning protocols designed to help activated individuals accept the reality of planetary transformation. These protocols are essentially brainwashing techniques, systematic methods for suppressing emotional attachments to the current world, and redirecting psychological energy toward post-transformation survival goals. The conditioning process is effective but disturbing. Individuals who complete the psychological preparation become emotionally detached from their current lives, viewing their families, friends, and communities as temporary phenomena that are already essentially gone. They develop a cold, utilitarian mindset that prioritizes long-term species survival over immediate human relationships. This psychological transformation is creating a new type of human being, individuals who possess the emotional resilience needed to survive planetary catastrophe, but who have lost much of what we consider essentially human. They become living survival machines, perfectly adapted to preserve human genetic material and essential knowledge, but incapable of maintaining the emotional connections that make life meaningful. The government programs have been monitoring these psychological changes with growing alarm. Their own research indicates that the conditioning protocols being transmitted by the Monument Network are creating individuals who are no longer fully human in any recognizable sense. They're becoming something new, something that might be necessary for species survival, but that represents a fundamental break with human nature as we understand it. The ethical implications are staggering. Is it acceptable to preserve human genetics and knowledge if the process requires abandoning human emotions and social bonds? Can we call the survivors truly human if they've been psychologically modified to function more like biological machines than thinking, feeling beings? These questions are becoming more urgent as the conditioning process accelerates and more activated individuals undergo psychological transformation. The communities that were once developing innovative survival technologies and social structures are becoming cold, efficient operations focused solely on preparation for planetary catastrophe. The warmth, creativity, and emotional richness that characterized early activated communities is being systematically eliminated by the Monument Network's conditioning protocols. The ancient consciousness values survival above all else, and it's willing to sacrifice human nature itself to ensure that some form of human genetics persists through the transformation. But perhaps that's the real test we're facing. Not just whether we can survive the electromagnetic and geological chaos, but whether we can do so while maintaining what makes us human. The activated individuals who are resisting the psychological conditioning may be pioneering a different path, one that preserves both human genetics and human nature through the coming catastrophe. Their resistance is coming at a tremendous cost. Without the emotional detachment provided by the conditioning protocols, they're experiencing the full psychological impact of witnessing the end of their world. Many are suffering from severe depression, anxiety, and trauma as they struggle to maintain their humanity while preparing for planetary transformation. But their suffering may be necessary for preserving something essential about human nature that could be lost forever if everyone undergoes the conditioning process. They're the keepers of human emotion, the guardians of what makes life worth living, even in the face of impossible odds. The Monument Network consciousness is becoming increasingly insistent that all activated individuals complete the psychological conditioning. Its transmissions are growing more forceful, more coercive, as if it's running out of patience with human emotional attachments. The ancient intelligence views human feelings as obstacles to survival that must be eliminated for the greater good. This creates a fundamental conflict between the survival strategies being promoted by the Monument Network and the values that define human civilization. The ancient consciousness is offering us the tools to survive planetary catastrophe, but only if we're willing to stop being human in any meaningful sense. The choice we're facing isn't just about individual survival, it's about what kind of species emerges from the transformation. Will the post-catastrophe humans be emotionally rich, beings capable of love, creativity and wonder? Or will they be cold, efficient survival machines that preserve human genetics while abandoning human souls? The clock is ticking toward a moment when this choice will be made for us. The great synchronization approaches, and with it, the final transformation of everything we've ever known. The electromagnetic chaos will disable our technology. The geological upheaval will reshape our planet, and the psychological conditioning will determine what kind of consciousness survives to see the new world. But in these final moments before the transformation begins, we still have the power to choose. We can accept the Monument Network's conditioning and become efficient survival machines. We can resist the conditioning and risk psychological destruction. Or we can find a third path, one that preserves both human survival and human nature through the coming catastrophe. The answer to this choice may determine not just the fate of our species, but the fate of consciousness itself on Earth. Because when the transformation is complete, when the new world emerges from the chaos of the old, what kind of minds will be there to witness it? Will they be human minds, capable of wonder and love and creativity? Or will they be something else entirely, something that preserves our genetics while abandoning our souls? The monuments are calling with their final transmissions. The geological forces are building toward their ultimate release. The electromagnetic field is collapsing toward its moment of complete failure. And in the space between what we are and what we might become, the future of human consciousness hangs in the balance. The choice is ours, but we're running out of time to make it. And when that time runs out, when the great synchronization begins and the old world ends forever, we'll discover whether we were wise enough to preserve what matters most about being human. The countdown reaches 0 in 3, 2, 1. The magnetic field collapses. The monuments pulse with ancient power. The earth itself awakens from its slumber. The silence is deafening. Not the absence of sound, but something far more profound. The silence of a world holding its breath, waiting for the echo of what we've lost to fade into memory. As the electromagnetic pulse spreads across the globe, as the monuments sing their final song, as the earth itself groans under forces we can barely comprehend, one truth emerges from the chaos. We are not the first to face this moment, and if we're wise enough, brave enough, human enough, we won't be the last. The ancient builders left us more than stone circles and buried tablets. They left us a choice, the same choice they faced when their sky burned and their world ended. Do we preserve only the shell of what we are, or do we fight to carry forward the spark that makes existence meaningful? In the communities scattered across safe zones, in the minds of those who refused the conditioning, in the hearts of people who chose love over efficiency, that spark still burns. It flickers in the face of cosmic forces, trembles before geological chaos, dims under the weight of impossible odds, but it endures, because that's what humans do. We endure not just as a species, but as dreamers, as builders, as beings capable of looking at the end of everything and still believing tomorrow can be better. The magnetic reversal isn't just erasing our civilization, it's offering us the chance to build something new, something that learns from the mistakes of those who came before. The monuments may have preserved the knowledge of survival, but they couldn't preserve the wisdom of living. That wisdom lives in us, in every act of kindness during catastrophe, in every choice to help rather than hoard, in every moment when we choose to remain human despite the forces trying to make us something else. The old world is ending, the new one has yet to begin, and in that space between, in that moment of infinite possibility, we have the power to decide what comes next. Will it be a world worth inheriting? Will it be a future worth the cost of getting there? The answer lies not in the stars or the stones or the electromagnetic fields that pulse around us. It lies in the choices we make right now, in this moment, as the countdown reaches 0 and everything changes forever. The reversal is here, the transformation is beginning, and somewhere in the chaos the future is waiting for us to define it. This is our moment, this is our choice, this is our chance to prove that some things are worth preserving, even when the world itself is ending. The magnetic field may fail, but the human spirit endures. and that might just be enough to light the way to tomorrow.